Every one of his interceptions was behind the guy, and they kind of hung in the air. There was no zip on the ball. And Purdy came out after the game and said, it had nothing to do with my toe. Oh, so you were just awful against Carolina that has no pass rush. Listen, we watched Matt Stafford on Sunday Night Football. That's a Hall of Famer. Mastery of the position. Big arm, pre-snap, looks left, fires right. Last night, you saw two average quarterbacks. One's making a fortune and one wants to make a fortune. 5 picks total, multiple bad throws to open receivers. And remember, the NFL's not baseball where we care about history. It's not the NBA where style matters. The NFL, when you're a quarterback, it's about your last 20 starts. It's about now. Last 20 starts, Matt Stafford, Brock Purdy, and Bryce Young. Matt Stafford's 43-5. That is an elite franchise quarterback. 43 touchdowns, 5 picks.
Oh, my God.
Bryce Young at least has a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio with a bunch of kids at wide receiver. Brock Purdy, 30 touchdowns, 19 picks. And by the way, on Monday Night Football, he presses because he wants to show everybody in a standalone game, hey, I belong. Monday Night Football in his career, 5 touchdowns, 11 picks, 75 passer rating. So I said in August, Rams are going to win the division, best roster. Seattle's close. San Francisco third. In fact, the only 2 things with the Niners this year that have blown me away, Robert Saleh deserves a head coaching job. What he is doing without Warner, without Bosa, without Hufanga, who's now with Denver, I don't know how they're doing it. It's just kids. And Bryce Young was great a week ago. He was atrocious last night. So, and Christian McCaffrey is, honestly, he should get paid overtime. He is the offense. But everybody keeps trying to convince, Colin, you're tough on Brock Purdy. No. You're trying to convince me he's elite.
You have to be kidding me. This line of reasoning just gets more and more absurd with every passing day. Let's start with the most fundamental point. You will never, ever hear a professional athlete publicly admit, yeah, I'm playing injured. So, the foundation of this entire critique, where the commentator scoffs, oh, Brock Purdy stated he was completely fine, that his health wasn't a factor, and then concludes, well, I guess that means he's just terrible, is completely and utterly flawed from the very beginning. It's a logical trap. No competitor is going to step up to a microphone and say, you know, my foot hasn't been right, and it's really affecting my ability to drive the ball downfield. That simply does not happen. So, let's just establish that as a given and move on from this ridiculous premise. Secondly, there's this bewildering comparison being made to Matthew Stafford, who is, without much debate, one of the most gifted passers in the history of the league when it comes to pure arm talent. All right, fine, let's actually examine that. The argument relies on Brock Purdy's statistics over his last 20 outings, a stretch where a significant portion of those games was played without his primary offensive weapons, a unit that was absolutely devastated by injuries. So, for the sake of fairness, let's look at Matthew Stafford's performance under similar circumstances. Last season, in games without his key target, Puka Nacua, and while still operating in Sean McVay's excellent system with great coaching, Stafford's numbers were as follows. A 65.8% completion rate, 175 yards per game, 2 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions, and a passer rating of 83. An 83 passer rating. I'm not sure what else to say. It's profoundly misleading to use a bulk of Purdy's starts, where he was missing essentially his entire receiving core and a player of Christian McCaffrey's caliber, and ignore that context. The number of games lost by starters on that team was higher than any other club in the league. The entire premise is just disingenuous. Now, to be clear, the commentator, Colin, is asserting that Matthew Stafford is a Hall of Fame caliber talent, a point I completely agree with. But the data shows that even a quarterback of his immense capability can be dragged down by a depleted supporting cast. 2 touchdowns versus 3 interceptions across a 5-game span. For 5 whole games, that was his production. He was one of the lowest-rated passers in the league during that period. Bo Nix was ranked higher. Caleb Williams from the previous year had better numbers. 5 touchdowns and 4 picks. Bo Nix had 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Deshaun Watson, during a comparable stretch with the Cleveland Browns, performed better. 4 touchdowns and only 1 interception. The aging Aaron Rodgers, 7 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Andy Dalton posted 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So no, you can keep that faulty narrative. I'm not buying it. Justin Fields, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. The list continues. Geno Smith managed 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. The evidence is overwhelming. I simply don't find the original argument convincing. It's utterly preposterous. Provide Brock Purdy with full physical health, and now a roster that actually has its key components available, so he isn't forced to carry the entire offense and figure everything out on the fly, and you will inevitably see a dramatic improvement in his production. It's really not a complex concept. It's the same principle that applies to Matthew Stafford. And let me reiterate, if your expectation is for Brock Purdy to be as historically great as Matthew Stafford, then you are fundamentally confused. The average rational observer is not making that case. Analysts like Matt Hasselbeck, who frequently appears on this show and is a staunch defender of Purdy, as is Greg Cosell, consistently push back against that very notion in their discussions. They are not arguing that Purdy is superior to Stafford. The real cognitive dissonance comes from Colin's own framework. He is positing that if Stafford wins an MVP and a Super Bowl this season, he should be considered better than Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback who many argued was superior to Tom Brady for large stretches of his career and is universally regarded as an all-time great. And now, we're supposed to take that same lofty generational standard and apply it to Brock Purdy as if it's a reasonable comparison? What kind of sense does that make? And then, in the next breath, we're comparing Purdy to Bryce Young as if their situations are equivalent? It's beyond frustrating. It genuinely is. We can have reasonable conversations. Yes, Brock Purdy did not perform well in this particular game. It was a poor showing. I'm not disputing that. A single bad game, however, does not mean you immediately discard the player and declare him a failure. The critique was that he was trying to put on a spectacle for everyone on Monday night, that he attempts to do too much and consequently struggles. But if that's his fatal flaw, why didn't he struggle under the immense pressure of the playoffs? Why did he rise to the occasion in the 2023 postseason and help guide his team to the Super Bowl? Why didn't he try to do too much on that ultimate stage? He actually left the field with the lead in the Super Bowl against an elite Kansas City Chiefs defense. He was not the one who fumbled the football. That was Christian McCaffrey. He did not muff a punt. He was not responsible for the injury to Greenlaw. The entire line of criticism just feels completely unmoored from reality. Let me be perfectly clear. I am not standing here trying to argue that Brock Purdy is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. I am not even contending that he is some sort of infallible, elite passer who should never be questioned. My point is that we, as a media culture, take these narratives to an extreme. We push every viewpoint to its absolute limit. Now the false dichotomy is that you are either as good as or better than Aaron Rodgers, because that's the lens through which Colin is evaluating Matthew Stafford, or we must immediately engage in a serious discussion about replacing this quarterback. It's a complete non sequitur. I was actually pondering this recently, and I believe many people are genuinely perplexed. They engage in debates about quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, and others, and their conclusion is always, oh, he's not good enough. If you inserted a better quarterback into that lineup, they would win effortlessly. But who are these mysteriously available superior quarterbacks? Where do people believe this endless supply of Hall of Fame, otherworldly, elite, all-time great signal callers is just waiting to be deployed? At this very moment, the general consensus, disregarding injuries and focusing purely on innate talent, is that there are 4 quarterbacks who operate on a different plane: Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. These are the 4 most frequently cited as being special and different, players who can do things we have rarely witnessed before. There is a legitimate argument to be made that all 4 could be ranked among the finest we have ever seen in the history of the sport. Yet the prevailing sentiment seems to be that if you are not a member of this exclusive quartet, then you are essentially a bum. How does that logic possibly hold up? It makes zero sense. If we existed in an NFL landscape where that specific group of 4 contained 16 such players, then I could perhaps understand the sentiment. But we do not. Instead, we inhabit this fantasy realm where, based on personal fandom, whether you support Dak or Hurts or Baker or anyone else, we selectively choose our facts. Take Jalen Hurts, for example. The narrative is, oh, if you had a better quarterback there, the team would be unstoppable. But who? They operate in this fantasy world where they assume Baker Mayfield is definitively better, Dak Prescott is definitively better, Trevor Lawrence is definitively better, Justin Herbert is definitively better. But if you actually list all the quarterbacks, you have to ask, Since when has that been the established reality? The same flawed logic is applied to Brock Purdy. The 49ers would be better with a different quarterback. Okay, then name them. I challenge you to name them. I would be fascinated to see this endless list of quarterbacks who are demonstrably and significantly better. Name all the quarterbacks you can genuinely trust in high-stakes moments, who have proven they are capable of performing at a high level on the sport's biggest stage, the Super Bowl. The list is not long. You have Patrick Mahomes, you have Jalen Hurts, you have Matthew Stafford, and you have Brock Purdy. Joe Burrow is on that list, but he's currently injured. Aaron Rodgers is there, but he's nearing the end of his career. Russell Wilson isn't really in that conversation at the moment. How would Bryce Young perform in a Super Bowl? I have no idea. The Bryce Young we saw recently looked like he had never played a down of football in his life. We talk about handling the moment, and he had a simple walk-in touchdown that he inexplicably decided to throw instead. It was baffling. Consider this. The same Carolina Panthers team that Purdy faced managed to contain Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love, with his huge arm and special talent, operating in Matt LaFleur's system, did not look particularly impressive. Jordan Love could have thrown 3 of the worst interceptions you'll ever see. One throw into the back of the end zone was a certain pick 6 that was just dropped. It was one of the most ill-advised passes I have witnessed in a long time. The point is, it's a week-to-week league, and context is everything. But these are just my opinions. I am genuinely very interested to hear yours. What are your thoughts on Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers? Do you believe he limits their ultimate potential? Has he demonstrated that he is merely an average player? Please let me know your perspective in the comment section below. I read every single comment that comes in. Whether you agree with me wholeheartedly or think I'm completely off base, let's get some discussions going. Let's have some spirited debates. But at the end of the day, let's just have some fun with it. Please consider subscribing to the channel. We are building a truly amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to have you as a part of it. My goal is to create something we all feel a genuine connection to, something we are truly excited to be involved with. I believe we are well on our way to achieving that. Also, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it genuinely helps with visibility in the platform's algorithm. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you next time.